Welcome to another edition of Drive with Dom. My name is Dom Callan, and today we are driving at HQ Racing in Peekskill, New York. HQ is a terrific new facility that I've been to a couple times. Spent 2 Sundays there, done a lot of laps, and have managed to get down to 53.4 on my second trip there. And started out in the 54s. Getting down to the 53s proved harder than I expected, in the sense that I knew that folks were doing 53s when I got there. I was doing 54s on the first visit, and I was struggling to understand why. I think a lot of that has to do with the surface. So let me share with you what I've learned, and let's give it a go. So this is the final heat of the day of my second visit, in which I set my new personal best, 53.488. Earlier in the day, I broke into the 53s with a 53.60. I then did a 53.4 as well a little bit later, and then finally this one, which was just a few hundredths of seconds better. But in any case, this is the final heat, and I am going out again in cart one. Cart one appears to be the best cart. So earlier in the day, when I broke 54 for the first time, the manager had given me in another gentleman who was sort of also on the cusp. He said, "Hey, I've got the 2 best carts for you guys," and he sent us out. I think it was in 1 and 16, and those were very good carts indeed. Anyway, so I did initially a 53.6 in cart 1, and now we're going back out again for my final heat, and this is a fast cart. I'm racing with Mr. Torres, Torris, up here. He's a younger fellow than me, and I think probably quicker in general. I think most of the time he's going to prove to be faster than me. However, in this iteration of our karting experience, I happen to have the faster cart. So I managed to barely squeak by faster than him. But it's great for comparison purposes because you can see the ebb and flow of me and Mr. Torres. Anyway, let's go check it out. It's a very long lap, by the way. Indoors, it's only indoors. It's a 50, like I said, it's a 53-second lap, and they haven't opened up the outside yet. So you have a pretty long outlap, as you can see. We come out right at the start finish, right after it. So we have a long outlap to warm up the tires. And then you're off to the races, as it were. You don't get a ton of laps in. I think the most I've seen myself get in a session is about 10, of which one of those is the outlap. So here we go. And I'm going to pause us briefly. So this is the start of the track. You can see the start-finish line. And the track begins with, I think, the trickiest and weirdest part of the track, which is the turn 1 complex. So what we're looking at looks like your sort of bog standard, hey, send it straight down into this turn, and then, apex up and out, and off you go. But there's actually another sort of wiggle in this turn. So, when I was originally approaching this, I was sending as hard and deep as I could into the turn, and then trying to pull it up to the second apex, and I was sort of sacrificing the first apex. Over time, that was clearly not working. So what my buddy Brian suggested is, hey, get down to that first apex and just make everything tighter. And basically, yeah, that's what you need to do. You need to tighten everything up as much as you can here, because the track is really, really grippy. So what you thought wasn't possible actually is. And here, you can actually bicycle if you connect the first and second apex here right. And I was starting to bicycle. So they can hold a lot of lateral load. So anyway, getting back to the beginning of this, let's go down the start-finish straight into turn 1. Okay, that's the second apex I'm speaking of. And then you'd normally think this would be, the end of the turn, but it's not, because there's this wiggle up here. And as you can see, you start running out of track because they've introduced this sort of wall that can get in your way if you're not careful. You then come out of that and then make a left up into sort of the next part of the track, if you will. And then sector 1 ends somewhere in this ballpark. I think it ends right about here. Yeah. All right, so as you can see, sector 1 and sector 2 this is kind of the flowing fast part of the track, which then dumps into the end. This is the end of sector 2 right here. So sector 2, the sort of upstairsy part, which is longer flowing straights, longer straights, big flowing turns, and then you go down the ramp to the downhill. And you then engage into sector 3, which is the final bit, taking you to start finish. And this sector here is, first of all, it's on the ground floor. So it's on, the ground floor surface, which is quite good. And let's see, what else about it? It's the technical section, I would say, the most technical section, wherein, as you can see here, we come down this hill into a fast sort of double apex left, which then brings us into a series of interconnected turns, all of which ultimately spit us out onto the start-finish straight. So let's go check it out. S3, here we go. Ahead of me is Taurus. All right, so you can see like your wheel is basically not pointing straight ever, and then you're off to the races, and here we go. All right, so we are going to do our fastest lap, I think, in the 8th lap here, but these are all pretty good laps. They're all 53s something, I think. Maybe one is a 54.0, so they're all instructive. Let's start by starting to pick apart just turn 1. I'll just cut to the chase and tell you what I think you should do rather than what I did and what didn't work. All right, so basically you can see I'm going to hug the left wall here, and I'm going to get down to that first apex. You're going to have to figure out what the turn in you want to do is, but I'm kind of not braking here, I don't think. I think basically what's happening is you're going fast, and then you're doing some lifting instead of braking, maybe, or if you are braking, you're brushing, because you can carry a lot of speed. If you stop thinking about this as the end of a straight, but rather as the beginning of another little part of a turn, and you can carry the speed through it, like there's a lot of carry you can have. So what you want to do is you want to get it down to the apex here. Don't sacrifice this apex. Really clip down to it. Carry as much rolling speed as you can. Don't necessarily brake. You can just go maybe from 100% throttle to 80% throttle, or maybe just try brushing the brakes slightly to get the nose settled. Anyway, here we go. Boom, down. Now, coincidentally enough, Taurus up ahead of me is at the next apex. All right, so you can see this is apex number 1, and yeah, if you dive really, really deep, you can sort of get the nose that, if you come at that turn where where Mr. Taurus is, how you set up for that is what determines whether that nose wall that we were talking about before that sticks out gets in your way. But as you can see here, when you come down and get to this apex, you're then presented by the next little part, right? Which is there's a right turn ahead of you, and it's kind of narrow. But what's so cool about these carts in the surface is that you can really hold here. So what you're trying to do is make the arc between this apex and the apex where Taurus is shallower than you'd think. And you'll know you've overdone it when you are hopping. The hop means you've overloaded the cart. You're probably not even going to push. Your cart isn't going to do the normal push slide that you might have because it's actually quite grippy. So you'll just probably go straight to hop, 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 hop. So hop means I'm asking too much of it. The cart's overloading laterally. The tire is grab, release, grab, release, grab, release. So you've got to get rid of that by either rounding out what you've just done, making the turn angle itself less acute, or slowing it down. So again, you just got to play with that to find the right angle between these two things. And you're also trying to figure out how to set up for here because you don't want to get stuck up there. And you can see I hopped there a little. So let's go back to the start. Not the start, but let's go back to some reasonable part, and I'll shut up and just let's watch the turn. All right, so let's pick that apart in terms of audio, and was it decent? 21.383 is... Oh, that was okay, but no, wait, no. But yeah, let's pick it apart anyway. All right, so here, full throttle, full throttle. I'm holding throttle. I'm at this point here, I'm obviously not full throttle, but you didn't hear a big drop in terms of engine noise or servo noise or whatever you call electric engines. So let's listen, please. So, yeah, the throttle release or the reduction in throttle is probably starting closer to this apex and allowing me to find the speed that I need so I can get back on over where Taurus is over there. So I think we hear the engine noise telling us this. Yeah, so I'm obviously back on before I get to the nose. I'm trying to get back on there. I'm actually a click or two back from there. You can hear there was a change where it goes, ooh, and I'm now accelerating, and my cart is in a good position here. I'm away from that nose, and I can hustle up to where Taurus is. I do again hop a little. There. Once. Not good, but not bad either necessarily. Let's find out. Over time, I think we'll find that the fastest ones have, they're pretty quiet. There's not a lot of... So actually, as it turns out, Sector 1, which was the one that we were just talking about, was my best of the day, 13.644 seconds. So there will be a little bit of hop as far as I've been seeing it, but not a lot. And you really want to minimize it. So smooth is ideal. You really don't want to overload the cart. And by the way, I am by no means like super fast here. I'm capable of doing 53s, obviously, but you can go faster than that. I think the best laps are 52s, but I don't think they're being set by 190-pound guys. I could be wrong, though. In any case, so I think, that was pretty good explainer of number one, so let's move on. All right, so as you exit, as you get past the nose, you can see your cart setup. Now you're going into the next sector, which starts with this, it's not exactly a double apex left, but it kind of is. This apex, this left here that takes you up the hill. Excuse me. Let's go back just a touch. So If you think about the turn that we just did and that weird shape to it, and how you're approaching it sort of diagonally, and then you're driving diagonally across and then coming back up, you're sort of it's almost creating a path that, if you think about it, is going to now take me out towards that right wall. And it's kind of a flowing circle where I'm going to now go out to the right, and I'm going to, I'm going to turn in such that I can basically lay the side of my cart on the apex of that turn as close as I possibly can. And I'll probably do some throttle reduction right before it in order to accomplish that. You're not going to drive through that turn, but it's going to be fluid. You're going to see that this is all going to get round when you're doing it. You're going to be coming through that turn one complex, around that second apex, swooping into this flowing turn where you're going to flow around this next apex. But you do have to take some speed off, kind of hearish and managing it. All right, you see what I mean? It's not really a double apex, but it's for all intents and purposes a double apex. And you want your cart to be tight to this, obviously. And I'm going to use the width of the track here to, give myself the least amount of speed reduction to get the cart tight down to that apex, because again, the speed reduction here isn't going to be braking necessarily. It's going to just be, if anything, a slight reduction in throttle. This one here is interesting. So you begin the upstairs part once you're up this with this. Below you is that formula car and the go-kart, the vintage go-kart. Below you actually is the turn one complex. And, above here, there's this unusual fast, building speed turn where you're going left, left, left. But you can't see it, but there's three lefts. So when you think you're done turning left, it does it again. And it's all full throttle, obviously. You're going and building speed, and you obviously want to get down to the apexes here, like this one, but not that one. You want to get down to this one, because this is the one that spits you out to where it matters. So reviewing this is what you're going to be kind of coming up around here. You're going to be sacrificing the first, not getting down to the first one. Letting the cart be slightly round around it, slightly wide, which will let you get down to the one that matters, which is the second one. So watch. Boink. And so forth and so on. And if you do that right, you get a nice straight run through here. Okay. There are two, after you do this, after you go through that fast section that I was talking about, you've been shot out the cannon. Is this where we are? Yeah, we're shooting out the cannon right now. And then we come to the first of the two, I guess, big cutbacks. And these are really cool turns. And these turns are exactly the same as some turns at another facility that the guys and gals who have driven there will recognize instantly. In any case, the name escapes me at the moment. In any case, these are sort of bog standard, but they're, again, the surface here is really good. So what you do not want to do on any of these turns is overdrive the entry and push the exit, right? You want to be not doing that, because if you're pushing the exit, obviously you're bleeding speed and you're running wide and you're a mess. This is, of course, what most of us do most of the time. And you kind of have to, in order to get to the point where you're not, right? You have to understand how fast you can go into a turn to not, completely plow through it. That being said, this surface is very, very good. So you can carry a lot through here. When you start getting quick on this track, you'll start feeling like really, really good, like flow, and you're going to be feeling like you're able to maintain RPMs, although that doesn't exist really in electric carts in the same way. Coming out of the turn, you're going to feel like, oh wow, I was able to just keep it all together with with so much less speed reduction than you thought possible, because you're timing the speed reduction that you are making well, such that you can get down to the apexes. So here you're going to take speed off. You have to, and you are going to use your brake most likely, but it is very minimal. It is, you are peeling the speed off and letting the grip of this track do the rest. All right, so, and you do the exact same thing twice. It's the turn in the other direction is sort of the same and feels the same. All right. So again, we come out of here into the two important turns, which are the two switchbacks, which are taking you down. And use the width, get down to this apex, make sure that you're not, I guess the key thing here is, like I was saying, don't overdrive these where you're pushing wide through here, because you absolutely can't afford that, because look how much, oh, there's some great downhill straight, like you really want to be to throttle early. So think about this, where you're approaching this turn, you want to be back into, you do not want to be off throttle, not generating forward power for long here, and you want to do that part of it well in advance. So I would say, maybe take off a little speed by brushing the brakes just before entry to get the nose of the cart down, and then you're back in maintenance throttle. Maybe at like, whatever it is, you're giving it some juice through the turn, which rapidly builds all the way out. So. The second turn is really fun. The second cut back, the right at the bottom of the hill, because it's the bottom of a hill. And there's that moment where the weight of the cart comes down and settles onto the flat, right? Which is coincidentally kind of where you're going to be engaging in your turn in, which is also coincidentally on the very far left of this track. So you can sort of have fun. You see how Taurus kind of scooched over here as far left as he could. You're going to see me doing exactly the same thing. And you can see us scooching over there right at the bottom of the hill. You can see some lights blinking here. So I think those indicate braking, although they could also indicate throttle reduction, coming off the throttle somewhat. But that would be consistent, right? Because I was saying, look, we want to get our speed taken off in advance of these, so that by the time he's engaged in his turn in here, and he's begun his turn where it gets dark in color, he's going to be back in gas there, driving through this turn. And, we'll be making nice power through the rest of it. So again, you're doing a brush of the brake, settle the nose, turn in, back on throttle early, but don't overdo it. Just don't try to be too hard. If you're sliding and jumping and bumping around, you're pushing too much. Keep moving it backwards until it feels comfy. And it really feels good. I mean, like you can hear it almost. It's like a zipper. I mean, I'm right on the wall there. It's like sucks you in. Okay, this part is fun. So after you do that, you then go back downstairs, finishing S2 and starting S3. So here, after the two cutbacks, you then have this final turn, which takes you down a hill. which is extremely reminiscent of another place, which then feeds into that beginning of S3, which that downhill plus the beginning of it is exactly like another track around here. Anyway, this one here is just a high-speed chicane, but it's a lot of fun. So this one is not a braking one at all. This one is, I'm going as fast as I can, at least at this part here. And I do have to, however, take off speed because we have to get through this. This part here is quick, you'll see. But then we get down to here and, oh, guess what? That's not a singular apex. That's a big round turn. And we have to get around this, and you're going to see that it's going to flatten out and do it again. Oh, there and there again. So you need to be down to this apex. So kind of similar at the very beginning of going upstairs, where you kind of were going around something round that kind of was trying to bamboozle you into being too tight to it. Similar thing going on here. The being too tight to it isn't a problem for most folks because what they're going to do is overdrive it, right? You're going to see this where someone's going to overdrive it and they're going to end up popping off way too wide instead of not being able to hold lower. So you do have to take some speed off. You're going to do it via brushing of the brake or lift or however you want to do it, but the same basic thing applies. You're going to be in this, for me, my guess is, if we go back and look at this, I'm guessing that at this point here, right as I'm crossing this threshold where, I've been full throttle and now I'm looking over here going, oh, I've got this apex coming up. This is probably where I'm going to start taking off speed. And I'm probably going to take off speed by maybe slightly brushing the brake, or lifting right around a little bit before where Taurus is up here, getting it down. And then there's going to be no braking other than that one first time. There's going to be no more additional throttle reductions. It's only going to be throttle addition from there on out, most likely. Yeah, full. All right, so let's go back and look at that. Okay, yeah, so it looks like I'm starting to take off the speed after this first turn apex. Yep, you can hear it there. Bringing the cart down. Now, this isn't a great one either, by the way, because you can see I'm not as perfect to that as I'd like, and the cart's jittering. This part here is really fun. Okay, so the top part, I guess my thought to you is go fast here, send it down to that apex, and then at this point here, you're going to be thinking about taking off speed because you're going to have to whip it around to the left and it's going to keep going longer than you think. So you want to take off, start thinking about throttle reduction in between here and where Mr. Taurus is. And then we are going to exit down the hill into that beginning of S3. So here we go down into S3. And again, this is really fun because you once again have a situation where you're sending it downhill, and once the transition of the downhill, once you're transitioning, the transition ends, I guess for want of a better term, you're beginning your turn in. So there's that cool kind of swoopy feeling. And again, use all the width to set it up, but get down to it. Again, it's one of these sort of box turns. It feels like you can see it here where it's again, everything here is almost like a double apex where there's, instead of coming to a point, it comes to this wide U shape, and you can really lay the cart tight on this one. You can see a touch of the brakes where he's there, or a lift or whatever it is, and you've got so much grip. You can just sort of, no sliding, no drama, get the cart right along here and spit out the other side, which he's going to do right there. And I'm going to do as well. And we're going to do it again here. Okay, so this part here is really fun. And why it's important to do this well is because it's the technical part. And what's going to happen is you need to be giving yourself space out here because you've got to do some more crazy turning. So I'm going to take this all the way out here, ride it up here, and here I'm going to, this one is a lot of fun, but it's very quick. I want my cart up against the wall here, and then I am turning the cart over. Not instantly, but pretty damn close. Watch. Bang. And that informs the next turn in that the angle that you are using to come off of that is just held, and it takes you out wide and coincidentally allows you to get down into the next section, because you can see again they did this boxing off of these turns, so you have this little flat part that you can sort of just slide your cart into. Bang. And use the width to get down there. Anyway, so let's go back. So let's start again at the beginning of S1. So all the width on the right, lift, brake, whatever it is that you do. I don't know that we're braking here, but you'll figure it out. The point is take off whatever speed you need in order to lay the cart flat tight onto this apex and have the cart spit out all the way to the wall right. Delay your turn in, but when you do, bring it down here as best you can, almost laying the cart onto the wall, and you will have to turn back over very quickly. And this part here may or may not involve a lift. So I don't think I lifted at all there, but you could. The lift would be rotational, purely. Because, like I said, there's so much grip here, but you don't obviously want to plow. So maybe depending upon where you're initiating your turn in, a lift would make sense or not. But play with that. The whole point is, though, you're going to find that it's a very quick turnover, and it has to be. I don't know. It takes a few tries to get the hang of. Because if you do it right, the back is well set up to make power. All right, let me see this one last time. So like I said, it's going to spit you up out to the wall, and then you're simply going to turn down using that. Obviously, what you don't want to do there is allow it to send you too far to the left, right? I guess that would be the danger with that strange, yeah, here. Like the way that the cart sets you up, the way the wall sets you up, kind of, in a sense, is misdirecting you towards that nose. But as you can see, as I was coming out of there, I wasn't fooled by it, and I was keeping my cart to the right. So the takeaway here is, yeah, you're going to need to hold the cart a little bit to the right of the track in order to then have the correct angle, because you're going to flop the cart over while at full speed, right where Taurus is up ahead of me, clipping that apex and using all of the width to run it out to the far wall. So you need to hold the turn to the right, but not crazy amounts. Okay. And the last part is very tight. So this part here, I'm not going to belabor at all because it's not that complicated. Like, just go full throttle. Don't let it carry you too far to the left. Make sure that you hold the cart to the right. Turn the cart over. Figure out how to do that without lifting or having to do any course corrections. Okay. We're now going to shoot down into the very last little bit. This is a fast, straight bit that goes into a wildly tight, bizarre, corkscrewy final part. So here you do have to get rid of speed. And let's see Mr. Taurus ahead of us, because he's pretty good indication of what needs to happen. Boom! We see brake lights. All right, so we are going to be going around and again, one of these odd turns where instead of boxing it, they kind of like bring it to a almost they tighten this one. So it's a box that kind of gets weirdly triangular. Um, but again, you got to get down to this and you got to get down to it, I think, tight. And I think in this case, what I'm trying to do here is it just keeps going, right? And here I'm trying to get my cart as far left and keep it left as I can so that I can get over to this apex here. The last apex is this tiny double apex where Taurus is passing wide of it right now. What I was trying to do is not go wide. Literally say, okay, let's get down here to this and try to use all of that and come out of it like you would normally. You'll see it gets challenging because it's a 180 turn right that goes into start finish straight, and you've just done an insane like 270 plus 180 plus 90 to go. At this point in time, you're basically dizzy, but it's complicated and fun, and you'll see, but it also flows. So again, you're going to have to take off some speed here to hold this because it's so tight. Hold, turn it over, let it come out wide, and then run on down. So let's see that again. Let me go back a little further than that. All right, so we're coming up to the end here. Take off some speed, hold, left, then pull it over to the right, hold the angle, and just let it roll out. So finding that right turn angle back here is challenging. And I'm not like everyone else, I'm new to this, so I don't have it 100%, and it'll take me time, and I don't live nearby, so it's going to take me forever to do this. But when you turn here, see that turn angle I just made to the right, you're going to hold this angle to take you down to this apex, and out to the wall, ideally. In other words, you're not going to want a whole lot of correction. And finding how to do this isn't easy. You'll have to play with it, but eventually you'll get it. The point is, it's a one-piece turn, and you're flat here. Again, you're taking off speed surgically when you have to. You're putting speed back down, obviously, not stupidly. You're not going to. I mean, that's pretty much. I'm gonna see if I can sort of follow this. Speed reduction. There's been no speed reduction since I speed reduced. In other words, whatever I did initially was then replaced with throttle, either maintenance or building, and it stayed constant throughout the whole thing. So you're going to not be doing any substantial amount of time where you're off the throttle. All right, so that was lap 1. The faster laps are to come. I think I'm going to let it run and point things out. So there, you can see I'm a little wide. There I'm wider than I'd like, but I didn't get stuck behind the nose. Watch again. First apex, nice arc, but too tight, almost stuck behind the nose. Speed comes off, put it back on, rolling it up the hill, flow through here, let the cart go right, okay. Fast, take some speed off here. Now you're back on and through. Again, you're gonna take a little spot there well before the turn, but you're back on and through. Here you don't have to, you're going to maybe lift, but then you're going to be back on, but you're going to be careful about how you do that, because if you do it too much, you can tap the wall. Here we're still looking for that perfect angle, and that one worked out nicely. This one works out beautifully. That's great. Like it. Hit the wall. Pretty decent. Let's do it again. Is that faster? 54.0. So no, that wasn't faster. Again, a little hoppy. Right. Let it drift out. Stay tight to your apexes. Take off the speed early. Get back on. Go. Let it. You'll feel the cart find its way around that. It's like so smooth. It's like it gets locked into the rubber, and it just feels so good. It's a different experience because it's, you know, compared to supercharged, it doesn't slide at all. It's more like RPM in this is actually quite reminiscent of RPM Surface in Stanford right after it was redone. Tight clip. That one I like. Didn't go out too wide. Take the speed off. Nice. That's been good so far. Okay, let it roll out. Nice. A little off, going uphill. Oh, by the way, you can't see it here, but there is an uphill right here. Right before you make this left turn, you're going up this uphill. And coincidentally, that's a great place to think about your brushing the brake, because you've got the you've got the natural slowing of the hill, so you can kind of use the hill a little bit so that you don't have to take off very much speed. And you can, like I said, it just holds so beautifully. So here, that one, you can see there was a little correction there. I think here in general, I'm a little too early in my turn in. That one wasn't ideal. Fine. Yep, works for me. Yep, works for me. Like it. That's okay, fine. Fine. Yep. Yep. Nice. Okie dokie. Yep. And 53.7. Okay, we're starting to get quick. There's not a lot of variation in these laps. I mean, if you go down and look at it, I'm not all over the place. Yeah, well, assuming that you've got some driving experience, you'll find this is a really pleasant track to drive, because it's very predictable, and it'll let you, it'll let you load up the cart, and it won't snap suddenly on you. But it will make you hop. Again, another 53.7. So I don't know, the GoPro's stabilization, like you can see a little bit of the bicycling there. The length of, you're jacking funny, but at the end of the day, if my S1 time involves a little bit of bobbling like that, and it's, a 0.2, which appears to be as fast as I can do it, and that gives me a good enough time, then maybe that's right. I don't know if it's possible to do it so perfectly that the cart is completely quiet. I don't know what level of hopping in one is not hopping, but what level of ask of the chassis is appropriate in that one section. All right, so that was my fastest lap. So let's go back and revisit that. And then we'll call it a day. So we should be, I think I might have overshot. Nope, did not. All right, here we go. Okay, so this is the end of lap 7, going into lap 8, and let's watch. I think that was a good first sector, or first turn. Let's go back and look at it again. Nice tight there. The arc, as you can see, is middle right of the truck. Get it way super tight down to this apex, which is what allows me to not get too far stuck behind the nose. But you can see there's a little bit of a cart bobble or something. That's the cart getting overloaded. I don't think that's a result of the wall. No, that is not a wall strike. So I was thinking maybe I bounced off the wall and you're seeing the front end hitting the wall and causing the cart to jump. That is not the case. The cart is, in fact, loaded up there, and you can see that that cart was a little bit of hop. Yeah, so interestingly enough, that worked out beautifully, even though there's that kind of slight hoppiness. I think I cut that one as tight as I possibly could, and it was, experiencing sort of the outer limit of what you can get away with. But the key takeaway, guys, is get down to the both apexes. When you're the distance traveled between those both apexes, don't let the arc be very, very deep. You want to sort of try to keep it as tight as possible, minimize the distance traveled, and you've got so much grip to get up around the nose, you'll figure it out. All right, so we established that kind of liked one. Again, out here, using all the width, going out here, nice turn in, perfect. That actually not great, in the sense that I went a little bit too early. You can see I do that little yikes with my hands. I wish there was a way to go frame by frame, but so my nose clears the wall here. Bear in mind, though, that go-karts are narrower up front than they are behind. The rear track is much wider than the front track. So my cart is going to be, the outside left edge of my cart is going to be dragging on that wall, the back part of it. And I think I know that I've put myself in a weird position because I've got the cart coming in at such a flat angle to this orange and white stripe line, which is what I wanted, just smooth right across there. But I think I placed it too far to the left. So I'm going to make a little adjustment. Yep. And no harm done, but yeah, harm done. There's always harm done. That being said, it's my fastest lap, so still pretty quick. Not much to that, but just this one here, there is something too. So what's fascinating to me about seeing this lap is if this is indeed my fastest lap, which it is, I have now just seen a second mistake that you would think would not be present in the fastest lap of the day for me, or for anyone for that matter. Yep. Oh, that's so funny. Okay. So remember how I was saying, hey guys, you need to take off speed early? Well, that's what I'm doing here, but I do it a little bit too much. And I have to do a bit of a save. Watch. Oops. So it worked. I effectively did a mini lockup and got the back of the cart turned around really quickly and got it down to the apex beautifully, and it all worked out just fine. But in an ideal world, no. I don't think you need to have that moment where you're doing that. It's going to be smoother than that. You can see how much grip there is. I was able to just get it down to the apex and hold it like there as well. It feels so good down here. And there you go. Again, so this part I think was worked out really well. So let's see what went well. Start from the beginning. What do I like? Yeah, that went well. It worked out okay. I mean, it was fast, but ideally no correction. Absolutely fine. So I think what happened here is you're holding throttle until you're not. And that until you're not part is how fast you're going to end up sending it into your turn. And I think here I'm trying to go deeper. And I go deeper to the point where I have to take off speed by using more braking than I normally would. And I'm able to do it just fine and get the cart exactly where I need it to be, when I need it to be, where I need it to be. But is this a repeatable thing? Like, no, it's not. You're going to be way smoother than this, and you're not going to push it in as deep. And that works out just fine. Little wall tap, but I don't think that cost me any speed. And that worked out great. Nice and tight to everything. Here it's going to be nice and tight. Okay. Yep. Turned over beautifully. That one piece turnover. This works out great. Down we go. Tight. Perfect turned over in one piece. I don't think actually my exit here on this one is my favorite exit. So you know how I'm talking about that, like trying to do, once you do that second turnover, going out to here, you're kind of like then holding it. Here, while I get the first apex here beautifully, you can see I'm running out and just running it wider out to the wall. So there, ideally, I think I would want to be closer to that second one. I think my cart is too wide here. Again, I'm not sure. If we were to ask whoever holds the really faster times, like whoever's capable of putting down the 52 whatevers, are they clipping are they clipping the second apex, or are they running wide? A lot of people have been running wide of it, but I'm guessing that since this track seems to reward being super gripped up, because it's so grippy and you don't push anywhere and you can really get down to the apex and shorten track, my guess is that you want to be as tight to these apexes as you possibly can and shortening track as much as you can. And you're not going to have to drift out as wide as you would think you will. So anyway, something to bear in mind, which is the track probably will let you turn tighter than you think you can. What's my S3 time? 21.258. So yeah, that seems to be a quick S3 time. I think the other drivers who were faster than me throughout most of the rest of the day had, yeah, again, 21.2s were good. Pay attention to your sector times, S1, S2, and S3, and pay attention to, how those compare, let's say, to the people that are faster than you, and see where they're 18.430, S2, and see how your sector times are stacking up relative to faster drivers, and then go watch their videos and see what they're doing in the sector where they're faster than you. Because odds are you're using too much track somewhere, or you're overslowing somewhere, or the first thing that everyone's going to suffer with here, like every other track, is overdriving the entry, pushing, hopping, that kind of stuff. So I hope this was helpful. I mean, it's not really a track guide in the sense that, do this here and there. It's more of a discussion about the track. Like I said, I've got 2 days of driving here, 14 sessions. You do a couple pub sessions to get qualified, which you have to break 60 seconds in the normal speed, which isn't hard to do, but can be hard because of traffic and yellow flags and stuff like that. And then you get pro speed. And the facility is great. The staff is great. The people are great. I met the guy who built it. I've talked to the GM. I've talked to the manager. I've talked to all the people who work there. They're lovely. They all seem to be really into it. And yeah, it's brand spanking new, and it couldn't be better. It's a racy place. I don't know what their plans are ultimately in terms of, leagues and races, but I know that there's going to be something. Also, this track is built in such a way that it combines an indoor with an outdoor track. Obviously, winter in New York State in the ski area is not going to be conducive to using the outdoor track, which is why you're not seeing it. It's just indoor only. A 53-second indoor-only track is a pretty good length indoor-only track. So with the outdoor track, I think it's going to be pushing over a minute 20, which is fantastic. So this is going to be a lot of fun. Another thing, gas carts are coming. They're going to be, I guess they have to get the ventilation system all dialed, and then I guess the doors open and the outdoor track going. So hopefully this was useful to you. Enjoy, and there's a big blizzard heading to most of the country over the weekend, so I don't think we're going to be racing anywhere, so maybe I'll do some more videos. Talk to you guys later.